So, Sue has sort of painted the landscape in terms of advocacy and direction and leadership for the academy, for kids, for pediatricians. It's pretty deep and comprehensive. We're going to change channels a little bit because everyone just needs to take a deep breath in, hold it for a second or two, take it out and relax. We're going to do that again. We're going to, where's Dr. Schafer? Oh, there you are. We're going to refocus a little bit back to our practices, back to the real world and practice families that we live in and day out. We are all under a lot of stress and pressure, and it's a very challenging moment on so many levels. That said, we can be more thoughtful and strategic and active in trying to keep joy in charge of your pediatric office culture. And with that, Katie comes recommended to us as she presented at the NCE. She got great reviews. We brought her in all the way from Michigan, and she's going to chat with us about our office cultures and what we can do about it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Weissman, for inviting me here today. I felt initially like a fish out of water here in the DC area, far away from home, where I knew I was going to come down to the conference room and there wouldn't be too many familiar faces. And I want to congratulate all of you for this integrated network that you have. I practice in a metropolitan area. My practice is in a suburban community outside Detroit, and this does not exist. And what I was quickly reminded of, though, is we are all here in our own little islands, I guess. Like I'm on an island in Detroit, y'all are on islands in either Virginia or Maryland, but we're all fighting the same battle. And so we are comrades, like Dr. Cressley said, and we have a lot of work to do. So I did not bring a cheerleading skirt or pom-poms, but I do feel like I have the opportunity here to kind of layer on top of what has been said this morning. We were inundated with CPT codes, which is riveting and exciting, but ultimately how we get paid. And then we were, kind of baffled by the battles we fight with insurance companies and the work that we have to do there. And then, of course, there's declining fertility rates and Medicaid unwinding. And I know all of us looked at that graph and looked for our state, but our population is declining. I think it said by 18%, which was one of the bigger numbers up there. And I have big aspirations for the kids in Michigan. So maybe there'll be fewer of them to take care of. But anyway, so just a little bit about me. My name is Katie Schafer. I'm a pediatrician and practice owner. Like I said, my practice is in a suburban community outside of Detroit. Our practice is called Bloom Pediatrics. And what I'm going to do here today is tell you a little bit about our story. And I think in telling you our story, you will hopefully be inspired to take one small little glimmer of hope back to your practice. Because like Dr. Cressley said, this is a bit of an uphill climb, but if you can climb while having fun, then I think it makes it all the more enjoyable. So I'm sure all of you is familiar with the movie Inside Out and all of the emotions that we deal with. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about joy and a little bit about fun. And I'm going to tell you about the growth in our practice and why I think we had the opportunity to grow. And hopefully you'll be inspired. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Of course, I have no faculty disclosures here. I have no financial relationships with anyone. The one disclosure that I will give as we go along this journey with my practice is I gave a talk similar to this at the PCC Users Conference this summer, all about practice culture and keeping your practice happy and inspiring your employees. And 4 days before I gave that talk, all 5 of my pediatric nurses resigned. And you all laughed. At that conference, everyone gasped. I think it was like still too new at that point that everyone in the room was just horrified by the fact that we had, such a mass exodus of nurses from our office. And at that time, I told them that I was confident that we were going to be successful because we had an awesome practice culture and everyone was going to pitch in. And now I stand in front of you now in December, and we have a whole new team of 6 pediatric nurses. And I think there's a reason for that. So that's my only disclosure, that I'm gonna let you know about the fun that we have. I'm going to let you know about how we do things, but that does not mean that we are immune from all of the problems of running a business and the people who are in your business. So what I'm hoping is that we can identify some opportunities for employee retention. As we've talked about, we need to inspire the younger generation of pediatricians, or maybe those who haven't even chosen pediatrics. But like Dr. Cressley said, are you starting to interview the 5-year-olds in your office to find out, what's their career path? But we need good employees to do the good work that we do. And if we don't have an army of people to do this work, then we're no good. We might have all the credentials in the world, but if we don't have employees to help us pull off this work, then we're kind of up a creek. And I want to talk a little bit about culture. We have a very intentional culture in our office. I don't know if it's where things started, the chicken before the egg, but what it has turned out is that by doing all the things that we do, I believe that it is implemented, it resulted in our employees being happy and us allowing us to grow. And then I hope you feel inspired to make one small change in your practice, because like they say, the way that you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So you don't have to do everything all at once, but hopefully you'll take a small thing back to your own practice. And so I think today we've been a little bit on an emotional roller coaster. So I don't know if I'm doing the uphill part or the downhill part of the roller coaster at this point in the game, because we've heard about a lot of the challenges that we have. And as you know, being a pediatrician and owning a business and taking care of kids sometimes is really, really fun. And sometimes you just want to get off the ride. I'm sure all of you have had a day where it takes a whole lot more energy to get up and go to work. And if you're anything like me, it's 1 2-year-old visit and I'm snapped out of it. The way that the 2-year-olds speak to me, I don't know, we're just very kindred. And so all I need is 1 2-year-old visit to just like pull me out of the trenches and remind me why I'm there. So this is our girl. She looks probably familiar to some of you. And I think, so I am sort of given in our office, I don't know if you guys have done this, like who in your office represents all of the characters from Inside Out. So I'm often given this one. I didn't wear a blue wig today, but I do think that as a leader, it is important that you set the tone for the work that you're trying to do. And we just hired, so I graduated from residency in 2010, so that will, tell you how old I am. And we recently hired a doctor who just is graduating from residency this summer, and she looks similar to me. And as we sat across the table from one another at dinner, where we were discussing, the opportunity at our office, and I thought to myself, she is me 15 years ago, and I have to make this look good. Because if I'm sad, if I'm frustrated, if I share too much about the burden of what goes on behind the scenes, then she will not be inspired to succeed me, for example. And so I felt the supreme sense of responsibility to make it look good, and to teach her the way I was not taught by my predecessors, what it means to be a pediatrician, what it means to own an independent practice, where I think we have tremendous opportunity when we are given the power to work on our own. And so what does it take? So this is a photo of some of my staff at one of our staff meetings. We do hold a monthly staff meeting, once at 7 a.m. on a Monday and once at 7 p.m. on that same Wednesday. It is mandatory for our staff to come. And I do believe that the communication and me getting up in front of the group to let them know where we've been, where we're going, and to be able to congratulate them on the work that we've done is instrumental in keeping them inspired. But what it really takes is a well-defined culture. And so I would challenge each of you here, could you define what the culture in your office is? You could give it a sentence, you could give it 2 words. It shouldn't be a paragraph, that's too much. But if you don't know what the culture in your office is, then I would challenge you to help to define it, and we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like today. And you need to give opportunity. So Dr. Cressley mentioned this, for your staff to not be burned out, to not have to ask them to do one more task. What we do in our office is give our employees opportunity to do something that's maybe adjacent to what we do, but not directly related to patient care. And sometimes when I give this talk, I have to remind people that, we gave 37,000 vaccines last year. So we don't just have fun. We also do the work of being a pediatrician, but it's much easier to do that work when you have an engaged team. And so that has become really, really important to me as we grow. And I think this is probably the one that hits home the hardest, is giving purpose. I'm married to an engineer who's been working in his career for 20 years, and he comes home and he's frustrated with some conference call he was on, and I don't ever have the sadness or the frustration, because I know that the work that I'm doing directly affects somebody and has purpose. And so if you can give that to your employees, if you can create opportunities for purpose beyond just talking to a family on the phone or answering a portal message, their buckets will be filled. And when people have a full bucket, they tend to be happier and they tend to be more willing to work. I will explain to you that we do have fairly strict rules at our office as well. So while we like to have a lot of fun, what ends up happening is that the people that stay in our office are the ones that comply with the rules. And we're able to kind of weed out the bad apples, if you will. And having fun is also okay. So a lot of what we do, I'll walk you through some of the stories, but there is no more inspiring words to me than when someone says, "That was fun." If someone says that was fun, I'm like 150% likely to do it again. And so if it's a 2-year-old that says it, if it's a 5-year-old that says it, if it's an employee that says it, if it's a parent that says it, then I am very, very likely to say we should do it again. We should do it better. We should do it 3 times next year. So this probably evokes some emotion in all of you. Ever have been through it yourself, watching your patients go through it? But I think the definition of puberty, right, is sort of that time when everything is a little awkwardly sized. You're not exactly sure who you are. Maybe your legs are too long. Maybe your nose is too big. And this is essentially what has happened to our practice in the last 5 years. I don't know how else to describe it, but our practice has gone through puberty. And I think there's probably no better word. If I use this word, I don't know, at some other conference, people would not know what I was talking about, but I think all of you certainly gets it. So in 2019, we were a practice in our community. The practice had been in the community since the late 70s. It had always been sort of a 4-doctor practice, taking good care of patients like any other practice, high volume, seeing lots of kids, and kind of stayed the same since, 1977 until 2019. There were 4 doctors. And in 2019, I was one of those 4 doctors. And in 2024, we now have 23 providers. And this kind of all happened, I was like in it and doing it and never really took a step back to look at what had happened, but it's people around me who are seeing what's happening and going, well, how is this happening? What is going on in your office? And so it's forced me to kind of take a look back and say, how is this happening? Because I was just in it and doing it. And so we went from 1 location in 2019, we just opened our 2nd location this past January. So we're having our 1-year anniversary of our 2nd location. And I know many of you have 1, 2, and 5 locations. And so I'm sure you understand sort of the inertia that has to be overcome to open a new office. And I think the bigger thing is that in 2019, we had 32 employees, and today we have 123. And so what that tells me is that to do the work that we do, it requires that many more people. And with that many more people come that many more problems. And with that many more problems comes more people to hire to fix those problems. But this growth is very organic, and I'm going to tell you why I think it happened. So that's the roller coaster I think that most of us is on. And my sister works in corporate America, and whenever I don't think she quite understands what I do. And when we have a problem with an employee, she goes, "Well, can't you just take that to HR?" And I'm like, "Carrie, I am HR." There isn't a department. We all sit in a room and try and figure out what we're going to do next, right? Um, so what I want to ask you is, why does employee joy and fulfillment matter to you? And I think it's been spelled out here today that the reason it matters to you is because we need employees to do the work to take care of the kids in this country. And I can't even say in this community because I'm sitting among people who live geographically very far from where I live and coming from all across the country. And I think the reason is that it's a whole lot easier to keep people employed than to train a new employee. So when 5 nurses all resigned at once and we were left with none, we basically had to lean on all of our staff. We had to identify, okay, what is it that the nurses do? Let's make a list of all of the things that the nurses do because they're all gone. And we had to farm all of that out to the staff. And then we had to figure out, how do we hire 5 new nurses to fill this gap? And how do we train 5 new nurses who've never worked in our office before, who don't know about the Bloom Pediatrics office culture? And so it's way easier to keep the nurses than it is to have to replace them. So if you can keep your employees happy, they are more likely to stay with you. And an employee that stays with you makes your life a whole lot easier. Also, I think when your employees are happy, they have improved productivity. And there's a picture there. That is my staff at a flu clinic. We theme all of our flu clinics. And so at each flu clinic that we do a flu clinic pretty much every Saturday and Sunday, starting in September all the way through the end of November. And every flu clinic has a theme. And the theme isn't exactly revealed before the kids come because we don't want too many coming to the tie-dye clinic and not enough going to the donut clinic. But that's my staff all crowded around the donuts for a flu clinic. And I don't have to ask too much of my employees to do this work. And so when they're happy, they're more productive. When we put a sign up out for employees to sign up for something, we never have to beg for them to sign up. And when they're happy, you retain them and you can recruit them. So we employ a lot of students. We employ a lot of in Michigan. You don't have to be a certified medical assistant or a nurse to be able to give vaccinations. So we are lucky. I know that's not the case in every state, but we have come to a point now where we hire students. So these are generally gap year students. They're all pre-med or pre-PA or in nursing school. And they're young, they're impressionable, they're motivated, and they have siblings, as it turns out, and friends. And so what's happened is that even though they are short-term employees, they might work for us for 2 years while they're finishing their training or applying to school. Turns out that they have such a great experience working at Bloom that they tell all their friends. And then we have this lineup of people coming in to want to work for us. Now, these are not trained people, so we have to implement a training program for them to understand how to take vital signs on an infant, how to weigh an infant, how to give vaccinations, how not to give vaccinations. And so there is a lot of onus on us to train them. But what has ended up happening is we basically have this, instead of like the negative hamster wheel, we have this constant cycle of new, young 20-somethings coming in wanting to work at Bloom. And we made a decision as a group that we would rather have the temporary 2-year employee than constantly be trying to fight to find a certified medical assistant from an institution the caliber of the people coming out of those programs is quite a bit different. And so while these employees are temporary, when they are with us, they are motivated, they're helpful. I can't say enough good things about them. And with regard to culture, if you don't know what it is, then you're going to just end up nowhere. So before you engage on any of these opportunities, I would ask you first to write down who do you want to be? That is something that we say in our office a lot. Who do we want to be? Do we want to be the pediatric practice that is open 7 days a week, that's open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and doesn't want to send our patients to urgent care when we can help it? But that's who we want to be. And in your community, you may not want to be that. You may have a wonderful pediatric urgent care around the corner from your office that you trust what's happening in those offices. But we want our patients to use us as their primary medical home. And in order to do that, we needed to be open. We polled our patients. Would you rather us open at 7 a.m. or 8 p.m.? And they were split down the middle. So we did both. But that's who we want it to be. And so I would encourage you to identify who you want to be. And the culture in our office radiates in everything that we do. So the doctors feel it, the patients feel it, and the community feels it. And when I go out in the community, they're like, oh, you're from Bloom Pediatrics. We see you everywhere. And there's even like a rumor around town that we were bought out by private equity and someone infused all this money into our practice. And Dr. Groby and I told the story. Nope, we're just two mom pediatricians. We have kids of our own, and we want to make a difference in our community. And this has been spoken to a little bit. The attorney that was here this morning, some of the things that she was saying resonated very much with me, but she talked a lot about the use of the word and instead of but. And in our office, this neon sign hangs in both of our offices. This one is at the dead end of one of the hallways, and the other one is on the stairs going up to the doctor's office. And the answer is yes. What is the question? And that's there because I want my staff to embody a culture of yes. And so I need to remind them with a neon sign that this is how we operate. And so we talk about this at our staff meetings. I have a couple of slides on culture at every one of our staff meetings. And we have to define what yes means, okay, especially to the young 20-somethings. I'm like, you don't say yes to everything, but you say yes instead of saying no. And you say yes and when you have the opportunity to say yes. And so this goes for a doctor where a mom walks in and the front desk doesn't know what to do. They don't want to say no, you can't come in. And so this empowers the doctors to say, can you say yes to seeing that guy that walked in? Because the repercussion of telling that family they can't be seen goes farther down the line. This is the culture of yes for the front desk. When a parent calls and says, I'm going to be late. So instead of saying, sorry, we can't see you, maybe the messaging is, you won't be able to see Dr. Schafer at 2:00, but you might be able to see Dr. Groby at 3:00. So giving an opportunity. And so this has been thrown back on me before. My staff says like, Dr. Schafer, the answer is yes. So you have to be careful, but the idea is that my employees are repeating this. They're repeating it right back to me. And this is really, really how we define our practice. When the Little League team calls and says, will Bloom Pediatrics support Birmingham Little League? The answer is yes. When the local homeless shelter says, can you come and give vaccines to the kids? The answer was when the health department called in February of 2021 and said, Dr. Schafer, we have COVID vaccine that we can give you. You have to be able to give 1,200 COVID vaccines in 2 weeks. Can you do it? The answer was yes. And so I think that this yes culture has helped our practice to grow and has helped us to thrive. And if you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. So this has already been talked about a little bit today, but I tell my staff all of the time, when we get a compliment from a patient, I'll put it up. If I get a text message from a family or something comes in on a Google review, I will post it up on the screen and say, nowhere in here did they mention Dr. Schafer. They said, "We love the staff at Bloom." And that is the work that they are doing. And so when they are reminded that they have a voice and what they do matters, that little interaction that they have in a room with a family goes a long way. But you have to tell them about it because parents tell you. They don't tell them, how wonderful they were. So I would encourage you to empower your staff by giving them positive feedback where it's due, and also to give them opportunity to have a voice. So we are willing to listen to any idea that any employee has. If they're an MA, if they work at the front desk, a nurse, an NP, a doctor, if anyone has an idea, we're willing to hear it. So at one of our staff meetings, one of the front desk employees raised her hand and said, "Could we do a blood drive?" The answer was, "Okay," but I didn't know how to do a blood drive. We'd never done a blood drive. I didn't even know how you start. I know the Red Cross does blood drives, but how would we get involved with a blood drive? And so I empowered her to reach out to the Red Cross and find out what do they need for us to do a blood drive. So my idea was that there was going to be a patient in every exam room getting their blood drawn. Well, turns out that's not how the Red Cross does it. They need a 40 by 80 room, and it has to have air conditioning. And there was this whole task list. And so we didn't know how to do a blood drive, but we did one. It was at another staff meeting that we were talking about trying to get rid of paper at the office. We were saying we were trying to be, have a sustainable practice, and we wanted to get rid of paper wherever we could. And one of the more outspoken MAs kind of raised her hand in the back of the room and said, "Well, y'all are getting rid of so much paper. Why do you still have paper on the tables?" And I stood at the front of the room and thought, I don't know, because we always have had paper on the tables. And so we decided that, wow, we order a lot of paper, we store a lot of paper, and we throw away a lot of paper every day. I mean, how many of you have to have the trash emptied a couple times during the day because it fills up with paper? And so we decided, okay, we'll get rid of the paper. And we put a sign up. We've been a laminated sign on the back of the door, and telling the patients, where did the table paper go? It turns out nobody ever even asked, and we haven't used table paper since that day. And so if y'all are still using table paper, I would encourage you to throw it away. The patients did not care. We even made little placards that we put that says this room is clean. I don't know what's clean about a piece of paper that you roll out necessarily, but we put these little signs up. We had this whole algorithm of what we were going to do to know a room was clean and know that the table had been wiped down. And turns out we didn't need it. So we tore the things off the back of the door, and we haven't used table paper since. And that wasn't my idea. It didn't even occur to me. I was like, stop printing, the anticipatory guidance from the AAP. Stop printing those 2 pieces of paper. We have a portal. Put it in the portal. I said, get rid of the thing that we give the patients that has their growth percentiles. It's all in the portal. Send them to the portal. It never occurred to me how much paper we were using on a table every day. So the idea here is that these were not my ideas. So if you are the person at your office who carries the flag, who holds the torch, who wears the crown, whatever it might be, remember that if you leave some space for your employees to come up with ideas, then you don't have to come up with all of them. And some of them have really good ideas. So for example, this was our Bloom Pediatrics blood drive. Most of these are my employees, and they were all first-time blood donors. And so, if you've donated blood once, you're probably likely to go back and do it again. Well, the Red Cross will call you over and over again to come back and do it. I think I declined 3 calls from them today. But if you can see, this was the text message that I got from the Red Cross person that organized it. And they thought that we would do 30 pints of blood. And you can see how many we did. So we outpaced the expectation of the Red Cross for our blood drive. And we had never done one before. So I guess the idea here is just because you don't know how to do it, or just because you've never done it before, doesn't mean you can't try. And this required a few emails and a couple phone calls, and we had to work with the local YMCA to use the gymnasium at the YMCA, but doesn't hurt to have a relationship with the YMCA in your community. I think they're the ones who are inspired with taking care of kids. So these were most of my employees, one of our doctors. But does any of them look sad? They all got poked. They all had to lay on a bed for 20 minutes while they got their blood drawn. And every single one of them, I think, looks proud and looks happy. And I think also, giving purpose to the work that they do. So we have sort of ingrained in the work that we do as pediatricians, we keep kids healthy, we take care of families. There is purpose sort of just like built into what we do. But there is opportunity outside the office to do work. So some of you may have seen this, but this is basically now our office mascot. It's called the vaccine machine. And the vaccine machine was born out of a text message that I got at 5 a.m. from one of my docs. This was in December of 2020. And she said, I had a dream last night that you rented a van. This is right when the COVID vaccine had been approved, that you rented a party bus and took the whole staff around to get COVID vaccine. And I wrote back and said, I love that idea. We should get a van and call it the vaccine machine. Now, this was December of 2020. The only people who were getting COVID vaccines were people who were working in hospitals. And what she did was she basically taunted me for a few months, sending me memes of vans, like taking corners. And so I was like, well, this could be really cool. So I reached out to the local car dealerships, and nobody was giving away cars then, right? The chips were a problem, and like nobody was giving away cars. And so one of the docs that works in my office, she like alternates which car she drives every day. So one day when she was kind of in a good mood, I went up behind her and kind of like whispered in her ear and said, hey, would you mind if we took your Pacifica and wrapped it and called it the vaccine machine? And she turned around and she said, it's fully loaded. You can have it. And there it is. So that's the vaccine machine. And what the vaccine machine did was go around during COVID. So remember that call from the health department when they said, hey, you want to give 1,200 COVID vaccines in 2 weeks? Well, it turns out that phone call forged a relationship with the health department, and they were willing to give us as much COVID vaccine as we wanted. And at the time, we were one of the only private offices that had COVID vaccine. But I was pestering her because I was sitting there, twiddling my thumbs, which I don't do well, and kept saying like, hey, like we're in the business of giving vaccines. This is what we do. If there's any opportunity for us, we would love to get involved. And then when she called me and said, you have to give 1,200 vaccines in 2 weeks, I thought, well, we give 1,200 vaccines in 2 weeks in our regular work week, but this is 1,200 more vaccines than we usually give. So what happened here was that then because we had the COVID vaccine, we thought, well, we need to give it away. And so we went to 6 of the local high schools. At the time, the vaccine was only approved for kids 12 and up. So we went to 6 of the local high school or school districts and brought COVID vaccine. And so the vaccine machine is not a transformer. It doesn't actually give vaccines. It's just a van. But it's what we use to take all of the supplies we need to do a mobile vaccine clinic. And so this has given new purpose. And what happened for me was that COVID was this amazing opportunity, if I can use that. It sounds a little confusing to say that COVID was an opportunity, but what happened was we went out of our office. Like for the very first time, we stepped out of our office and took care of patients somewhere else. And then COVID became kind of not cool, and COVID vaccine was kind of not cool. And I thought to myself, we can't lose the momentum that we had in the community. Like we made a stake in the community and we can't lose that momentum. And so, but then we had to come up with another idea of like, well, what are we going to do with the vaccine machine now that like COVID vaccine isn't sexy anymore. No one's that excited to get their COVID vaccine. So now what are we going to do to keep our stake in the community? And so what I'm going to share with you here is sort of, rather than tell the story, there's a little video here that will explain to you that the vaccine machine had sat idle for some time, we weren't giving COVID vaccine in the schools anymore. We hadn't exactly thought of another idea for what to do. And then I got a text message from a friend. And I think I have to actually play this here. Our journey with COTS began in the fall of 2022 when a physician colleague texted me asking if we could bring vaccines with our mobile vaccine van, the vaccine machine. Of course, the answer was yes. At that point, our only goal was to go to the shelter and provide vaccines to kids who might otherwise be kept out of school because they were behind on their vaccines. Our first trip happened the day after our first Zoom meeting with COTS leadership. I'll never forget their question, "Well, can you come tomorrow?" It quickly became clear there was a bigger need for both the children and their families. Over the past 2 years, our visits have grown into comprehensive wellness checks for the kids. When we visit, we do everything we would do during an office wellness visit. We measure height, weight, and head circumference. We conduct hemoglobin and hematocrit screenings, lead testing, vision and hearing checks, and of course, we provide life-saving vaccinations. One of our biggest wins has been earning the trust of vaccine-hesitant parents, helping us fill empty vaccine records. Every month, our team, including front desk staff, medical assistants, nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors, makes the trip. We also partner with pediatric residents from the local children's hospital who are interested in community work. They join us to help take histories and guide the kids through different stations. It's been a great way to expose our young staff to the real impact of community work. One of my favorite quotes is, "Treat your staff like they will make a difference, and they will." I've seen firsthand how my team feels they're making a difference in ways we can't achieve in a traditional office setting. One of the most memorable moments came from a little toddler who figured out that I always carry an apple in my bag. Twice, he managed to sneak into my bag and enjoy the apple he borrowed. That's when it hit me. These kids need more than just the goldfish and pretzels we were bringing along. Now, we bring fresh fruit, cut it up, and put it in cups for the kids to snack on while they wait during the visits. Let me tell you, I could lay out bags of Oreos, Cheez-Its, and goldfish, but every time, they'll go for the fruit cup. You don't need a screen for food insecurity when you see it right in front of you. Since our first visit to COTS in the fall of 2022, we've completed 190 visits and administered over 300 vaccines. We've also successfully launched both Halloween and holiday trunk or treat events. It's a reminder that sometimes making a difference is as simple as showing up and meeting these kids right where they are. And so, but again, that opportunity sort of landed in my lap because a friend said to me, "Hey, are you still using the vaccine machine?" And I said, "Well, it's still in the parking lot. And, will you bring VFC vaccines? Do you bring private vaccines?" And I said, "We'll bring whatever you need." But then I had to reach out to the health department because we were now going to take VFC across county lines. But guess what? I had made this amazing relationship with the health department. And so they were like, "Dr. Schafer, you can do whatever you want. Go ahead and take the vaccines. If you're going to put shots in kids' arms, we don't mind." And the first time we went, it wasn't easy. We thought we were going to do a well visit like we do in the office, like super efficient, get the kids in, get them out, keep the families happy. And we went down there. We had our, our laptops, for our electronic health record. We were ready, poised, ready. Mom comes down. She's got 7 kids with her, and she's got headphones on, and she goes and sits in the corner. And we're all looking at each other like, "Well, how are we going to get the history? Like, what are we going to do?" And we were in the basement, and the Wi-Fi wasn't working, so we couldn't use our electronic health record. So we had to pivot, and we're like, okay. So when we go to COTS, which is a family shelter in Detroit, we're on paper. We had to go back. And the nature of the visits there is that we have to write everything down and we input it into the EHR later. And so my point in telling you this is that this homeless shelter is a 15-minute drive from our office. Our office is in an affluent community in Metro Detroit. This homeless shelter is a 10-minute drive from my office. And we didn't know how to do a wellness visit outside of the office until someone called and said, "Can you do this?" And the answer was yes. And so there may be an opportunity like this for you. You don't have to do, exactly what we do. But I can assure you, this is the DC area. I can assure you that there is a community in need that would benefit from your willingness to say yes. And so that's what I hope you might do in some small way when you leave here. This is just a photo to give you a sense of the number of people we take when we go to a COTS visit. So if I count in there, we have 1 person from the front desk. In that, there are 2 physicians from my office, 2 nurses, the rest are MAs, and there are one resident from the hospital. And so if we're trying to inspire residents at the hospital to go into pediatric primary care, what better way than to have them come be involved in something like this? And so what's happened from, what's evolved from this process is that now this resident he's standing in the corner there, he graduated, but he passed the torch to his resident who was a year behind him. And then one of our employees who got into medical school, well, now she's got us in the pediatric interest group and they all want to come to COTS. And so, now we've created an opportunity to inspire a younger generation. So this is the pediatric interest group, but they haven't joined residency yet. So now we have an opportunity to ensure that they might choose pediatrics so we can solve this problem, right, where all of the residency spots didn't fill. So, the AAP gives all this, news, and we have to do something about it. And so, this is an opportunity to reach the medical students. This is an opportunity to reach the residents. And but to give you a sense of, we go to COTS on a Thursday. We go one Thursday every month. And we leave the office about 2:30, and all of the work that we do is done by 6:30. So to give you a sense of, you all took a day out of your office to come here. It's not quite a half a day out of the office. Most of the patients there do have Medicaid, and if they don't have Medicaid, then they have someone at the facility that enrolls them in Medicaid. So we are able to bill Medicaid when we go. But last visit, we saw 21 kids. And that was they don't show up till about 4 o'clock when the bus comes back to the shelter. So from 4 to 6 o'clock, we saw 21 kids. And so you do need this group of people, and you do need to be able to tolerate a bit of chaos. I will say it's not easy, but the people that come with us are the people that thrive in chaos. And so of my 123 staff, this is the group that comes to COTS. But these are the people who this makes them tick. And if this makes them tick, then they want to work for Bloom Pediatrics. They don't want to work for the practice down the road that's just seeing patients in the office and doesn't give them an opportunity to do something else. This is a picture, for COTS, we do a toy drive, which is not uncommon, right? I'm sure your local fire department does a toy drive, maybe the school does a toy drive. We do a toy drive at the office, but then because there are staff, we have an opportunity for them to come and wrap presents. So this is a bit of my staff at the wrapping party last year. The wrapping party this year is next Thursday evening. But I don't have to beg people to come. I put out a sign-up genius, and we send it out to the staff. And we oftentimes get, can I bring my sister? Can I bring my friend? Can I bring my mom? And so it's just like seeps out, right? Just kind of creeps out to other people. And those other people know other people. And maybe they have a daughter who wants to go to medical school. And where is she going to send them? I don't know what's on this slide. Oh, these are just a couple pictures of things that we've done. So this picture is we paired with the local, you guys have heard of Humble Design. It is in some communities, but they furnish homes for people who are emerging from homelessness. And instead of having them go into an empty home, they go in and furnish the home. So we did something appropriately named Day of Joy. Where you go in and you furnish the house. So we took 12 of our staff to go in and furnish the home. This is us at one of the COTS visits. This is at the local Birmingham community parade. So we sponsor the party in the park at the parade where all the kids are. And this year, my staff made bird feeders for the kids. So all the kids wander up and make bird feeders, and then the parent says, "Oh, what practice are you from?" And it's just an easy way of advertising. So if you have an advertising budget and you're sending out things in the mail, maybe you redirect some of that money and get out of your office and go see people in the park. This is a group of us at COTS. This is another parade photo. But if you can see, like, nobody in these pictures looks frustrated. Nobody looks like they're in the doldrums about the status of pediatrics. What they feel is empowered, that they're making a difference, that they're taking care of kids. But we have rules. So to be a Bloom Pediatrics employee, you have to follow our fairly strict attendance policy. And the reason that this is so important is that if we're going to do all of this work, I can't have flaky employees. And so we hold our employees to a fairly high, well, I don't think it's that high of a standard. They think it's a fairly high standard. But all we ask is that our employees come to work on time and that they don't call in more than 12 times in 6 months. But I thought I would share this with you because sometimes people look at me and say, well, how do you do all this work? And you guys just have fun. And do you actually take care of kids? And do you give vaccines? Like, what are y'all doing? You're just like making balloon arches and going out in the community. Well, no, we actually do a lot of work in the office, but we have to hold our employees to a high standard. And so it is not always rainbows and butterflies. Remember, all the nurses resigned. And last week we fired 3 people because of this attendance policy. And what the attendance policy does is it allows you to hold them to a standard. And then you take the emotion out of like, well, should we? She's got kids, and oh, should we? You know, I mean, everybody has a problem, right? And so we lay it out for our employees, and they know exactly what they're held to. And so if they are someone that calls in because they're sick, then just show up to work on time. And then you won't accumulate points for being late to work. And so I wanted to spell this out for you a little bit because I think this is a little pearl that you might be able to take home with you. I've shared this with some of my physician colleagues who are friends. They had to loosen it in their case because they were like, I'm not going to have any more staff if I implement this. But basically, what this does is it holds all of our employees to a very strict standard to make sure that we have people that are willing to contribute to our team and weeds out sort of the bad apples, if you will. And so it's a point system. I don't know, it's not showing up entirely, but it's a point system. And basically, you can see outlined there what things are no points. So you cannot show up to work when you have requested a day off, or if you have FMLA or jury duty or bereavement, which is outlined in our employee handbook. But we allow them to arrive to work 10 minutes late before they achieve a half a point. And so it's like you won't get any points if you come to work on time or 10 minutes late. I think that's not so bad. So if you're like one of those guys, it's like, I'm at my points, it's like, then just show up to work on time. And this allows for like the traffic problem, or, you know, your kiddo wouldn't put their shoes on, you know, before you took them to daycare, all the things that happen. And then you get 1 point. It's not showing up here. I'm not sure formatting wise why it didn't show up, but you get 1 point for an unscheduled absence. So you're sick, your car broke down, your dog had to go to the vet, and so that's 1 point. And if you're sick, you know, with the same illness, we allow you to be out of the office for 3 days with one illness, with not accumulating 3 points. And so you can call in once a month, which I think is a lot, but if you do, then you're not going to work at Bloom Pediatrics. And then they get 2 points if it's a no call, no shows. If they just don't show up to work and they don't let us know, then it's a 2 points. And it's a rolling 6 months, so points fall off. And we do have some employees who like live on the edge, and they are always at 5 points. They just love to, and then they are calculated when the 1 point falls off because the time has gone by, then they call in. So we know who those guys are, but I guess if that's how you want to live. And then what happens is there is an attendance review. So at 3 points, they get an email saying like, hey, by the way, you're at 3 points. And so you want to like shape up, or we say, is there a problem? Like, is there something happening? Do you not like coming to work at 6:45 in the morning? You know, because we can schedule you for a shift that's later in the day. And sometimes that is the issue, but they didn't come and tell us until we were able to figure this out. And then at 4 points, if you achieve 4 points within 90 days of working for us, then we figure you're probably not a good cultural fit for our office. So there's a special stipulation for there. And that's not showing up, but at 5 points, then they have an in-person meeting with whoever their manager is, and says like, hey, you're 5 points, and the review when the next point falls off. So we do try and counsel them to say, you know, you're in dangerous waters here, and we don't want to fire you. We would actually like you to keep working for us. And sometimes, you know, they can't make it work and we have to fire them, and that's not easy. But we have too big of a job in front of us with the work that we as pediatricians have to do to tolerate employees who aren't showing up to do it, because you're showing up, I'm showing up, and we need our employees to show up. And what we do is that we reward our employees with fun things and opportunities so they get rewarded for coming to work. And like I said, we like to have fun. So we do a quarterly provider meeting with the docs and the NPs. And we were throwing out dates, and two of the NPs responded with, "I can't come, I'm going to the Usher concert." And so we all went to the Usher concert. And, my staff was threatening me like, "Dr. Schafer, you're not really going to buy tickets, are you?" Because they know I say yes. And so we did. We bought tickets for everyone to go to the Usher concert. Financially, it worked out to about the same as if we took everyone to a nice dinner, you take 30 people out to dinner. It's not cheap. But this is way more memorable than sitting around a table and having a glass of wine with your colleagues. So I would encourage you to think outside the box a little bit when it comes to, and we had a party bus and we were like, "Hey, is anyone having a problem with this billing code?" As we were like drinking wine, but it worked a little bit, but like the next one will be a little more serious, but every once in a while. And for you, those of you who don't know, that's a historic train depot in the city of Detroit that sat dilapidated for about 50 years, and Ford Motor Company restored it. And so when we walked up to it, I was like, "Hey guys, this is our new office," But anyway, so what I want to remind you is keep the right emotions in charge of what you're doing. You can come into work and you can be frustrated with, I'll just fill in the blank, insurance company. We have those same frustrations. We are taking care of patients. We take care of Medicaid patients. We engage in VBR initiatives. Like, we have all the same headaches, but you decide which emotion rules the roost. And so what I would encourage you is remember that those young doctors that are in your practice, like, they're looking to you to set the tone. They're looking to you to know how to behave. And I think it's really important that the hat that you wear is one of positivity, of encouragement. And that's not always easy to do. Okay. I don't like wake up in the morning and just do self-talk. But sometimes if you put these processes in motion, it just keeps going, so that you don't, if I have a headache or something and I walk in and they see I look frustrated, they're like, "Oh, Dr. Schafer, do you have a headache? We'll turn out the lights." They don't expect me to come in with bells and whistles on every day. It's just ingrained in our culture that there are these opportunities, and this is kind of like the pulse of Bloom Pediatrics. So what I'd like you to do is go home and once you've written down those few words about what you want your culture to be, do it, execute it in one small way. And you'll see that on the tables, some of you, there's too many people at the table. So if any of you is familiar with Lucky Tray Day, if you grab the roll of Gold Star stickers, because there isn't one for everyone at your table. But this is a small thing. So on all of your tables, there's a roll of Gold Star stickers. We keep a roll of gold stars at our office. And you wouldn't believe how much putting a gold star on someone's forehead or on their hand inspires them. It makes them feel good. You can do this for your patients. You can do it to the 4-year-old who just got their vaccines and was brave and bold, like Dr. Cressley said. You can do it for a parent who's doing a really good job. Actually, we had a newborn family that saw a family friend of mine. They saw one of our providers, and my mom said to me, "Oh, the baby was at the office and Dr. Dagger said that they got a gold star and they were hanging on this gold star." And she didn't actually give a gold star, but I went to her and I said, "What did you tell this family? Did you tell them they got a gold star?" She's like, "I don't know. I don't think I said that, But the family hung on this gold star, like they were doing a good job. So if you have a family that you think could be inspired by having a gold star, give them a gold star. If you have an employee that stays late to help you with something, give them a gold star. I can't tell you the number of times I run up to the front desk and say, "Where are the gold star stickers?" And every time I put one on someone, they're like a little, they get a little like, oh, I got a gold star. So, so if you're wondering like, oh, how are we going to do all this? A roll of gold star stickers on Amazon costs $6.99. Okay. So that's your investment into your staff. And so each of you has one to take home. And I hope you have to buy another one because you've been giving them away. So, so anyway, provide purpose for your employees. Think of some way that you might be able to get out of your office and do something outside the exam room. There's so much out there. I could stand up here for a couple hours and tell you all the ideas I have, but embrace opportunity. So when someone calls you and says, "Can you?" try and find a way to say yes. You can say yes and then figure it out, but say yes and see what happens from there. Enforce the rules because we have a lot of work to do. This day has been like, oh my God, like, I'm looking, I'm like, oh God, are there going to be babies in Michigan? I don't know. This doesn't look good. But we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do at the political level. Who knows what's coming our way, but I want to congratulate you guys for all being here because this is super important to network with one another and know people across the country. And I would encourage you to have fun. So whenever there's an opportunity to blow up a balloon, to turn on the music, to bring in a snack, you should do it. And so you may want to implement a new attendance policy. That's up to you, but this has worked wonders for us. It takes all the emotion out. I mean, we have emotion, but it's like they are at 6 points. Like this is the rule that we made. It's spelled out in the employee handbook. We talked to them at 3 points. We talked to them at 5 points. Find something to bring new purpose to your employees and do something fun. These are a couple of references. So the Yes and book, which is out of the Second City. Yes and thinking is kind of a lot like what they do in improv. So if any of you is interested in that, that's a great way of sort of building on ideas. And if you want to follow us, if you scan that QR code, that will take you to our Instagram page and you can keep up with all the things we're doing. And we like to follow other practices that follow us. So even though we're not geographically close, sometimes another practice is doing something really cool. And I'm like, where are they? Oh, they're in Florida. Okay, great. So that's to follow us. And if you guys have any questions, that's how you can reach me. And thank you for having me here today.
Hi, Herb Bravo. Dr. Schafer, thank you for coming to our neck of the woods. We love you. I wonder if you're going to play the video We're from Detroit for us today.
Oh, I didn't plan on that, but
We would love to have some rah-rah before we go into the break.
you're referring to the Lose Yourself video? Is that what you're talking
The
about?
one you taped where We're from Detroit with your staff.
Ah,
It's on
yes.
YouTube.
Okay. It's on YouTube.
Oh, it's not on YouTube. Can we,
That's
how about this?
I can find it and we
How about
can
we
get it to
find it?
them and do it at the end,
Or we'll do it at,
the break.
we're gonna have a break. And then we want to get you back. So come back after the break. For
See the video. Yeah.
And you don't want this. You don't want this.
Any other questions?
I was going to suggest that we build on this and next year, maybe we have practices report out things that they've tried and successes and maybe not so successes, because we know that our own practices are doing great work in the space as well. Katie just put together a great overview and comprehensive look, and clearly it must be a fun place to work. And it's always nice to work at a place that's fun. All right. So straight from Bloom Pediatrics, we're from Detroit. We're going to run the video as we promised.
You guys, did you hear that PCC is having an 80s theme for their users conference?
Duh. Schafer, we've been planning this since last year's users conference.
Well, what are we going to do?
It doesn't matter. We're from Detroit.
Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to vaccinate every kid you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?
Yo, his palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are ready. Vomit on mom's sweater already, it's her spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. His mom keeps on forgetting what she wrote down. Why is the notify down? He opens his mouth, but his cries won't come out. He's choking how everybody's holding him down. The clock's run out, time's up, over, blow.
Snap back to reality, shots for humanity. Oh, there goes Doc, she chokes, she's so mad, but she won't give up that easy. Nope, she won't have it. She knows her whole back to these trolls, it don't matter. He's poked, she knows that, what a joke without these pokes. She knows so many more could croak. Yo, that's when it's back to the lab again. Yo, this whole vaccine thing, better go capture this moment and hope it don't.
You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better.
The soul is chafing through this whole anti-vaxxing. This world is mine for the taking to be an MD. As we move toward a new world order, a new life is born. I want a vaccine supporter. Anti-vax excuses, they don't hold water. It only gets hotter, she knows it's all over. These HMOs on her, coast to coast clap, so why is she still bothered? Lonely roads, God only knows she never makes it home. Then there's this fodder. These folks think it's magic, just like Harry Potter. So up your nose, come on, here goes the cold water. These parents don't want 'em. We store this cold product, they move on to the next nose that flows. Only God knows they make nada. So the soap opera is told and unfolds. It gets old for the doctors, but the beat goes on. Da 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 da.
You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better. No more games, I'ma change what you call rage. Tear this motherfucking cap off like two Doc's cage. I was playing in the beginning, the mood's all changed. I've been clapped at and spit at and booed off stage, but I keep trying. Their fears I decipher. Best believe I'll never stop paying Pfizer. All the pain inside amplified by the fact that I can't get by with my 9 to 5, and I can't provide the right type of care for these kids. Cause man, this BBR don't pay like a movie. I wish a happy ending is lit.
This is my life and these times are so hard, and it's getting hard tending to ouchie, sub Fauci, plus a teeter-totter caught it between being a doc and fighting drama. Babies and their mamas, they're all screaming too much. I can't just stay in one spot, another day in a shot, and it's gotten to the point I'm like a snail. I've got to formulate a plot, or some people die if I stop. Success is my only mother option, failure's not. Parents, we love you, but this rhetoric has got to stop. We can't keep doing this if you're not. It's our only shot, needles fail me not, cause maybe the only opportunity that we got.
You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movement the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to grow. This new immunity comes once in a lifetime. You better.
You can do anything you set your mind to, man.